has laid a foundation of my talk, and Shruti said artificial intelligence could reduce the polypharmacy, and Prem also has said that technology, we should never move away from technology. So in this concept, my talk for today is going to be artificial intelligence in diabetes mellitus. Is it the future? So we all know the global burden of diabetes is increasing, and diabetes has become the most pressing global health challenges of our time, and roughly around 537 millions of patients are being suffering from diabetes, and it is projected to increase by 783 millions. And diabetes is going to be the leading cause of blindness, kidney failure, heart attacks, stroke, and lower limb amputations worldwide. So basically, what do these statistics tell us? With increasing healthcare, we may not be able to meet the demands of the increasing burden of diabetes. So there's urgent need for innovative solutions which can scale to the growing demands of diabetes care worldwide. The second issue with this current diabetes management, the traditional challenges what we face with the current management is that manual tracking burden. We tell every patient, you record your blood glucose, you record your insulin thing, you record your medication, you record your food. It is recording the glucose reading, carbohydrate intake, medication timing, activity is very burdenful for most of the patient. And this leads to cognitive load, fatigue, and this in turn leads to decreased adherence. We see this most commonly in GDM patient also. When we tell them to monitor the blood glucose regularly, or even in type 1 diabetes, they do sometimes, they don't do sometimes. It leads to lots of cognitive load. And irrespective of whatever treatment modalities we have, there's high complication rates. There is a hypoglycemic events. I'm sure most of the diabetic patients, they would have at least 1 or 2 significant hypoglycemic events in the whole lifetime. It is very, very common. And depending on what medication they are taking, and depending on the polypharmacy, your hypoglycemia could increase or decrease. And there's also long-term complication irrespective of your glycemic control. Another important thing is that there's inconsistent self-management. There's a wide variability in patient education. If our OP is free, we tend to educate our patient. If our OP is very busy, we tend to ignore most of the valid question what the patient asks us. And resources and support system. I'm sure even yesterday Shruti was asking, how do you have the resources to really take care of the technology? So there's an inconsistent self-management, and we also know one size does not fit all individuals. Some people would require a detailed counseling, some people might require just information what has to be passed. So in this context, let me try to give you an overview how this artificial intelligence is going to help us in the management of diabetes mellitus. So this is what I would be focusing. I would just give you an overview of what exactly is this artificial intelligence and application of AI in diabetes, how exactly it is used in glucose monitoring, and how do you adjust your treatment based on your AI used in risk prediction, virtual diabetes coach, and AI in telehealth, and how AI is exactly useful in a diabetic research. And I would also try to highlight the limitations and key takeaways for this AI. So what is this artificial intelligence? And artificial intelligence is a terminology coined in the year 1955 by John McCarthy. So artificial intelligence is nothing but when a computer is able to decide like a human, it becomes an artificial intelligence. So somebody might think, what is a software? So software is programmed, but this artificial intelligence is data driven. It is not rule based. So it is a data driven. So artificial intelligence is nothing but a branch of computer science where you're able to create an intelligent machine which can simulate the human decision making process. When I say human decision making process, it is in terms of its efficiency, in terms of accuracy, and in terms of precision. And what exactly it is artificial intelligence? I'm sure we have been seeing this in many times. There are 3 subsets of artificial intelligence. One is a machine learning, one is a deep learning, and next you call it a natural language processing. So what is this machine learning? So for example, all of us would be using email. So you have some spam which automatically goes to spam. So that is artificial intelligence, which is basically programmed. Now for some people, some email may not be a spam. So you say it is not a spam. So your machine learns from your feedback and from data you give. And next time that email will not go to a spam box. So this is basically a machine learning. So what is deep learning? Suppose machine wants to understand my face. So it is not a simple rule like spam. So my ears might change, my eyes might change, my nose might change. So you have various input which the machine takes or the computer takes based on my ear, eye and this thing. And these are then explored and then you have a output. So this is deep learning where you have connected neural network where each neural network takes care of a specific features. Suppose you have a dog and cat and the machine is shown the photo of a dog and cat. Now the machine has to identify what exactly it is. So the input comes from dog's ear, input that comes from dog's nose, input comes from the dog's facial features, and every input is analyzed in the hidden area and then it comes to output. So for your deep learning to become more efficient, you require more and more data to be driven. Now what happens once when it comes this, you can give your feedback. You can say your decision is right or wrong. This is not a dog, this is actually a cat. Then the machine tries to understand what mistake it has made. Whether it has made a mistake in identifying the ear or whether it has made a mistake in identifying the eye. Based on that, it redefines itself and your deep learning intensifies and then it is able to do it better. So more you use the artificial intelligence, the better feedback you will get, more based on your productivity. Some common artificial we all of us are using, we are using language translation, English to Tamil or whichever language, speech transcription. I'm sure most of the doctors, instead of typing, you just speech transcription. I'm sure even most of the WhatsApp messages, you just give a talk and then it could be transcribed. Language understanding, object detection, and most important, face recognition. Most of our app or computer, you have face recognition apps, and most of the attendance, again, you have a face recognition. All these things are part and parcel of artificial intelligence, what you have been using it. So now we are trying to look at what are the key application of this artificial intelligence in diabetes. I would try to focus on three important aspects. One, smart glucose monitoring. So we have discussed smart glucose monitoring where you have a continuous data collection and it has a pattern which is recognized and it also has an anticipatory guidance. I'm sure we have discussed yesterday. Your smart glucose monitoring will be able to predict your trend, whether your glucose is in an increasing trend, whether it's in a decreasing trend or whether it's a static trend. And again, you have automated treatment adjustment where you can able to adjust your dynamic insulin dosing and you can be able to medication optimization based on your treatment trend. You can have various guidelines which is incorporated. Your artificial intelligence will say this would be the probable drug this patient would need. And you can also able to identify risk prediction, whether who are the patient who would be able to progress from pre-diabetes to type 2 diabetes, complication models, and your hospitalization could even forecast various acute events. So most of the images which have been showed are AI-driven images. These are not the true images. And this is just for you to make you understand AI is not as difficult what we think. It is very, very simple tool provided we know how exactly it has to be used. So how do you monitor your glucose monitoring? As I said, your AI has a predictive capabilities. So your AI, you design an algorithm which could analyze your glucose trends to predict whether hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia. So your AI could say, depending on insulin what you take, depending on food pattern what you take, depending on insulin, it can predict there's a probability of you developing hypoglycemia or not, or what is the chance of you having hyperglycemia. So you can have integrated data analysis where your AI could have a glucose reading along with your activity data and your dietary information. It can also use your sleep patterns to provide your context about what exactly it is happening. You can have a personalized feedback. Your real-time smartphone notifications offer an actionable recommendation. So it will give you a feedback what exactly is your blood glucose. And we have seen this CGM AI, which has been used especially in type 1 diabetes, where the students in the school, they screen your blood glucose via Bluetooth, where parents are able to see the blood glucose from the home. So they can see what exactly could be done for the kids. So the clinical impact is that studies have shown a 62% reduction in severe hypoglycemic events. There's a 43% improvement in time and range for a patient who have been using artificial intelligence enhanced CGM system. So this is what we have been using. Initially, we have been using a glucometer. And then we had the data which is downloaded in the computer and we have been using it. And now what happens, you have CGM sensor, your mobile phone scans it, data goes to the cloud, your healthcare provider could see, your caretaker could see, anyone could see the value so that immediate remedial measures could be taken for most of our patients. Suppose you integrate your AI-based CGM monitoring with the insulin delivery system, it becomes artificial pancreas technology. So that is what's intelligent insulin delivery system, which is a closed system. You have a glucose sensor, you have an insulin pump, you have an infusion set. So this sensors your glucose. With Bluetooth, it sends signal to your pump. Your pump is programmed to deliver your insulin based on your glucose value. So if at all your glucose is less than 60, your pump shuts down so that no further hypoglycemia happens, and you can program the pump so that it reinstates or it starts operating when the blood sugar goes to more than 100. You can also have a program where it sends you a beep or notification when your blood glucose is more than 200 or more than 60. Any kind of modification is done. And the clinical outcomes is that studies have shown that's a 78% reduction in nighttime hypoglycemia. I'm sure nocturnal hypoglycemia is very, very disastrous most of the diabetic patients, especially when they have autonomic neuropathy, death in bed, everything is very common. And there's an average of 2.1% average improvement in HbA1c whenever you are using AI-driven pump system. And there's a error reduction. Automated systems, they eliminate the human calculation errors. Basically, when I'm sure most of us would have been attending IP phone calls, the sister would call us, so the sugar is 250. We'll ask what is the insulin patient has been taking. We'll ask what was the previous glucose. You tell some calculation for the patient. And many times you are not stopped with one phone call. You are asked 10 phone calls, and ultimately your true intelligence tells something which is not replicable. After 1 hour, another sister calls you for the same 10 patient, you will tell a different insulin dose. You will not tell the same dose. But AI, this calculation errors and this human errors could be reduced, and there's a 43% decrease in the insulin dosing mistakes compared to the traditional methods what we have been following now. And AI-based medication optimization, as I said, it could be an intelligent calculator to calculate the dose of insulin based on a historical glucose response patterns, based on the meal composition what you take, based on the physical activity levels, based on the stress and illness factor, especially in those patients who are inpatient. And of course, it can help you in clinical decision support. It can, depending on your age, depending on your duration of diabetes, depending on your other comorbidities, your AI could recommend your medication class. And it could have the timing optimization. It could also tell the drug interaction alerts. When you put various drugs in the AI system, it will say these are the drugs which could interact, and these are the drugs which may not be advisable. But of course, this artificial intelligence, everything should be validated with a true intelligence. You cannot totally go by this AI. So your true intelligence should suggest whether this artificial intelligence is right or wrong. And based on that, you take a patient-specific efficacious predictions could be done. So this AI-guided medication management has shown a 38% improvement in dosing frequency and 42% reduction in adverse medications events in large clinical trials. So predictive analytics, whether your AI is able to predict your complications. I think the key message in treatment of diabetes is not only preventing acute complication, you are supposed to prevent your chronic complications like neuropathy, nephropathy, or various other macrovascular complications. So now we use routine retina screening has been done. We use routine biothiometer. We use routine pedogram apart from your clinical measurement. So there are various risk identification based on a genetic insight, depending on your genetic markers or your biomarkers, and based on your previous electronic health records, AI could be able to suggest who are the patients who are prone for type 2 diabetes within a particular duration. And based on your other complication predictions, you can be able to suggest early intervention for most of a patient. So the major load for most of the patient or drain for most of the patient is that when you tend to send them to various specialists, it's really draining for them. You get appointment with ophthalmologist, you get appointment with a nephrologist, you get appointment college. So எல்லாத்தையும் நீங்களே பாத்திர முடியாதா? So in this scenario, AI would help you to prioritize which are the patients who would require intervention from a human doctor. So this is a diabetic retinopathy screening. Nowadays, I'm sure you can take the photograph or whatever it is. It suggests what is your retina picture and whether they require intervention. It also gives you a clue what exactly it has to be done. So this is a very interesting data which straight looked at your retinopathy screening based by the primary care, ophthalmologist and AI system. So your AI system In fact, it was slightly better, 10% better than predicting than the ophthalmologist also. Of course, it was not statistically significant. So that reason, because most of the screening tool in ophthalmology is not done by the specialist. It is done by the paramedical force. So that could be the reason. If this has been a specialist, I am sure the difference would have not been there. But what I would say is your AA system are at par with any ophthalmology clinic to detect retinopathy, and based on that you can send the patients for further treatment. Initially we are doing biothesiometer, pedogram and ABA index, which was a little time because it will take at least 20 minutes. Now we have various foot snap photograph where you just photograph and suggest, this will suggest these are the patient has neuropathy, this patient has this and this callus here, this patient is more prone for ulcer. Now based on that you give a feedback to the AA, no, what you said is wrong. Now AA tries to learn itself by the mechanism of deep learning. Suppose you start using for 1,000 of your patient, your 1,001 patient would be much better data than what you had for your 10th patient. So you have to be continuously using this AA to get the desired feedback depending on what exactly you want. And more important, whenever in chronic care, repeated reinforcement is very, very important. So you have virtual diabetes coaches and virtual diabetes with AA, where you have at least 24/7 intelligent assistants, which has adaptive learning. So it can suggest you regarding medication and testing reminders. It can have real-time glucose management. It can have behavioral reinforcement. So the commonly used virtual coaches are chatbots and virtual assistants. So it will give you various information delivery. It will give you various interactive guidance. It answers your questions and helps with the decision making. You tell, suppose I am feeling hungry, how much insulin should I take? It will give you an overview what exactly it has to be done depending on your insulin dose and other thing. And of course, it has a link to a multi-platform access. And you can even talk to them. You can have a text-based interfaces, or you can have voice-based assistants. Suppose you go home, you are a diabetic patient, it can be integrated with Alexa or most of the AI. I think Alexa tool is something which more of us are familiar. You have similar tool like this. You say, Alexa, I'm very hungry. How much insulin should I take? This AI will tell, no, you don't take insulin. No, you have your food and then take insulin. So these kind of small things, whenever you have no one to guide in your home and other things, these AI tools are very, very useful. You have AI-based chatbots and other things which is available. And systematic review of this thing which has shown with AI tools, there is a more engagement for the patient for traditional digital tools. Your medication adherence for more than 90% is roughly around 68%. Your HbA1c, A1c reduction is 0.7% compared to a routine treatment what we have been taking. And more important, telehealth, where you try to reduce the health disparities. It is not like telemedicine alone, where it is done by human intelligence. So telehealth basically helps to improve the rural coverage improvement by 82%, where you are able to screen most of the patient there. There's outcome and gap reduction between the rural and urban treatment by around 74%. You are able to have a expanded access to most of a rural, but at least 63%. So these things could be definitely done by your AI tool. The ultimate outcome is this. There's a documented clinical improvement in your HbA1c from at least 1.5% in type 1 and 1.2 in type 2. Your time in range has increased to 2.8 hours. There's a 67% reduction in hypoglycemic events. I would say this is the major benefit as far as the patient is concerned. There's a reduction in glycemic variability. And more important, the quality of life impact. There had been a 78% improvement in the quality of life for most of our patients. This is the data of HbA1c levels over 1 year, where you had a standard of care and a AI enhanced care. It is not a AI based care, it is a AI enhanced care, but still your human intelligence will stay a whole, and this really helps you to reduce your timing for most of these things. So AI in diabetes research and big data, you have large scale data integration could be done whenever you have data of say 50,000 patient data could be analyzed. You can have real world evidence generation could be done. Genetic risk discovery and novel drug target identification could be done based on this AI. But there is current limitation and challenges. Errors could happen whenever you see blood patient is drowsy, you try to check with the glucometer, it's all error. It shows E1, E2, many times we really don't know what exactly it is. So errors could happen. Human connections are always better, but you have various regulatory hurdles because most of the sophisticated AI algorithm, they lack FDA approval. and there's inconsistent effectiveness, variable, more and more you use, more and more better feedback you'll get with AI, data privacy concerns, algorithm transparency, and you are more and more dependent on your technology. Now, if somebody asks you your friend's mobile number, you really don't know without a mobile phone. So when you become more and more dependent on technology, your artificial intelligence, whenever it gets enhanced, your natural intelligence deteriorates. I think we should accept either one of these things. So the key takeaways is that AI revolution in diabetes from reactive to proactive care. So instead of just treating you, AI helps you to anticipate what exactly is happening. You can personalize your treatment based on your patient. There's a reduced patient burden. There's definitely an improved outcome for most of our patients. So the pinnacle of artificial intelligence is it's being a fully autonomous, but it always needs a human backup. If you know exactly how to interpret this AI, I would say this AI is definitely time consuming. And this slide, the whole theme was AI driven. It took just 15 minutes for me to prepare this slide. Thank you. That's the power of AI.